Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. In this video, I will speak to you using language simply because I can. This is one of the most remarkable abilities human beings possess. We can transmit complex thoughts to one another with extraordinary precision. At this very moment, I am producing sounds by exhaling air and shaping it with my mouth. Those sounds create vibrations in the air. The vibrations travel to you, they reach your eardrums, and your brain transforms them into meaning. When that process works well, a thought that begins in one mind can appear in another mind within seconds. Because of this capacity, humans can share ideas across vast distances and even across time. Knowledge can move from one brain to another without the two people ever having met. In fact, I can place a completely new idea in your mind right now. Imagine a jellyfish waltzing in a library while thinking about quantum mechanics. If your life has been reasonably ordinary, you probably have not had that thought before. And yet, through language, you are now capable of imagining it. This brings us to a fascinating point. There is not just one language in the world. There are thousands of languages spoken across the globe, and they differ in many ways. They differ in sounds, in vocabulary, and in structure. Structure is especially important because it shapes how information is packaged and expressed. This leads to a classic question. Does the language we speak shape the way we think? It is an ancient debate. People have been discussing it for centuries. Charlemagne, the Holy Roman Emperor, famously said that to have a second language is to have a second soul. That suggests language does more than label reality. It suggests language helps create it. On the other hand, Shakespeare wrote a famous line through Juliet, saying that a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. That suggests reality remains the same regardless of what we call it. For a long time, these arguments went back and forth without much evidence. But in recent years, researchers around the world have begun to gather scientific data that helps us examine this question more carefully. I would like to share several examples that illustrate how language can influence the way people perceive, remember, and reason. I will begin with an example from an Aboriginal community in Australia known as the Cook Tayore people. They live in a place called Pornpuraaw at the western edge of Cape York. What makes their language especially interesting is that they do not rely on words such as left and right. Instead, they use cardinal directions for nearly everything. North, south, east, and west guide the way they describe space. In their everyday speech, they might say something like, "There is an ant on your southwest leg." Or they might say, "Move your cup to the northeast a little bit." Even their greeting reflects this. Instead of a simple hello, one common way to greet someone is to ask, "Which way are you going?" And the expected answer is a direction, such as north, northeast in the far distance. Now consider what that means in daily life. If every greeting requires you to identify your direction, then you cannot function socially without staying oriented. You cannot even get past the greeting if you do not know which way you are facing. As a result, speakers of languages like Cook Tayo tend to stay oriented with impressive accuracy. They are often better at this than we once believed humans could be. At one time, people assumed humans were naturally poor at navigation compared to other animals. Some imagined biological explanations, such as the idea that birds have magnetic sense while humans do not, but in reality, language and culture can train people to track orientation continuously. When your language requires it, your brain becomes skilled at it. To appreciate how different this is, consider a simple task. If you close your eyes and try to point southeast right now, you might find it surprisingly difficult. Many people do not know where southeast is unless they are using a map or a reference point. But in communities like the Cook Tayore, even young children can do it reliably. That is not a small difference. It reflects a meaningful difference in cognitive habits shaped by language. Language also influences how people conceptualize time. Imagine that you have a set of pictures showing the same person at different ages, from younger to older. If you ask an English speaker to arrange these pictures to represent time, many will organize them from left to right. This often reflects writing direction, since English is written left to right. Speakers of Hebrew or Arabic, languages written right to left, may arrange time from right to left. But what about a language community that does not use left and right in the same way? In the Cook-Tayore case, researchers found something striking. When people were seated facing south, they arranged time from left to right. When they were seated facing north, they arranged time from right to left. When they were seated facing east, time appeared to flow toward the body. The pattern is that time was organized from east to west, based on the landscape rather than the body. In other words, time was anchored to geography, not to the speaker. That is a fundamentally different way of thinking about time. In many cultures, time seems to chase us. If we turn our body, the direction of time on a table or page changes with us. In the Cook-Tayore system, time remains stable in the world. It is tied to the land. Now let us consider another important feature of human cognition, number. Suppose you see a group of penguins and I ask you how many there are. Most people who have exact number words count them using a learned sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The final number you say becomes the quantity. This counting routine is not purely natural, it is a learned linguistic tool. But not all languages provide the same tool. Some languages do not have exact number words beyond very small quantities. In communities where the language does not provide precise counting words, people often do not count in the way many of us do. As a result, they may struggle to match exact quantities in tasks that require precise counting. This does not mean they are less intelligent, it means they have not developed the same linguistic mechanism that supports exact arithmetic reasoning. Language provides a framework that makes certain cognitive operations easier, more automatic, and more widely available. Now consider color. Languages differ in how they divide the color spectrum. Some languages have many color words. Some use only a few broad categories, such as light and dark. Even among languages that have many color terms, boundaries differ. In English, we use the word blue to cover a wide range of shades. But in Russian, there is no single word that covers all those shades. Russian speakers must distinguish between light blue and dark blue as separate categories. Because Russian speakers make that distinction constantly, it affects their perception. Studies show that Russian speakers are faster at telling the difference between a light blue and a dark blue than English speakers are, specifically across that category boundary. Even brain responses differ. When colors shift gradually from light blue to dark blue, speakers who use separate terms often show a stronger reaction at the point where one category becomes the other, as though something meaningful has changed. English speakers who do not separate those shades as strongly in language show less of that categorical shift. Now let us look at a structural feature that may seem playful but has real implications: grammatical gender. In many languages, every noun is assigned a grammatical gender, often masculine or feminine. Importantly, these assignments differ across languages. For example, the sun may be feminine in one language and masculine in another, while the moon may be assigned the opposite gender. Researchers have found that these grammatical patterns can influence how people describe objects. When asked to describe an object such as a bridge, speakers may choose adjectives that align with the grammatical gender of the word in their language. In a language where bridge is grammatically feminine, speakers may be more likely to say it is elegant or beautiful. In a language where bridge is grammatically masculine, speakers may be more likely to say it is strong or long. Language also influences how people describe events. In English, it is common to say he broke the vase even when it was accidental. In Spanish, speakers often choose structures that shift focus away from the person when it was unintentional, such as the vase broke or the vase broke itself. This matters because language influences attention and memory. When speakers of English watch an accident, they are more likely to remember who did it because the language often requires identifying an agent. Speakers of Spanish may be more likely to remember whether the event was intentional or accidental because their language encourages that distinction. Two people can witness the same event and later remember different aspects of it, partially because language guided what they encoded as important. This has real implications for eyewitness testimony. It also affects blame and punishment. Studies show that even when people watch the same event, describing it with an agent focused sentence can increase blame compared to describing it in a way that emphasizes the event rather than the person. So, what can we conclude from these examples? Language can shape thinking in multiple ways. It can influence large scale cognition, such as how people map space and time. It can influence deeper cognitive tools, such as number systems, which open doors into mathematics and advanced reasoning. It can affect subtle perceptual judgments, such as color discrimination. It can also shape broader patterns of thought, such as how people attribute qualities to objects or how they assign blame and remember events. The beauty of linguistic diversity is that it reveals how flexible and inventive the human mind truly is. Human beings have not created a single cognitive universe. We have created thousands of them through thousands of languages. Languages are living systems that evolve, and humans continually shape them to meet cultural needs. At the same time, there is an important concern. Linguistic diversity is disappearing quickly. Many languages are being lost at a rapid rate, and some estimates suggest that within the next century, a large portion of the world's languages could vanish. When a language disappears, it is not only a loss of words, it is a loss of knowledge, perspective, and a unique cognitive toolkit shaped over generations. There is another issue we must acknowledge. Much of what modern science claims to know about the human mind is based on studies of a narrow population, often students who speak American English and live in industrialized societies. That excludes the majority of humanity. If we want a more accurate science of the human mind, we must include a far wider range of languages and cultures. I would like to leave you with a final idea. When we say speakers of different languages think differently, that is not only about people elsewhere, it is also about you. The language you speak influences how you categorize reality, how you remember events, how you perceive subtle differences, and how you reason about cause and responsibility. Recognizing this gives you an opportunity to ask important questions. Why do I think the way that I do? How could I think differently? What thoughts do I want to create? Thank you for watching. If you found this valuable, please like the video, share it with someone who would enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your time and I look forward to seeing you again soon.